Okay, so I'm out at the cemetery and we've got this stone here. Let's say we needed to do a date of death for it. So I've got two different ways to do this. One is I could just take a sticky note, okay, and I could line that sticky note up here, just lining it up along the bottom, okay, and then when I take my picture, I want to get my picture just as straight on as I can get it at a good angle. Okay, so I think I took my picture. If I don't want to use my sticky note, I can use my handy dandy ruler and do the same thing where I'm just going to line up there we go. So I'm just lining up my ruler and then I take a picture of that. So now that we've taken our pictures out in the cemetery, what I'll do is I'll come in, I'm in CorelDRAW right now, and so what I'll do is I'll import those photos, and I took two of them, so I'll import both. This is the one with the ruler, this is the one with the sticky note, so I'll just go ahead and bring both of those in. Now if we look at these pictures, we can see the size is 44 inches by 25 inches at 72 dpi. That's the dpi that the camera takes the picture at, which means that this is not a life-size photo. So that's why we have our ruler and our sticky note. So what we can do is we can zoom in here, and I've got my white putty stuff here on the 2 and the 10, so I can just click with my line tool on the 2 and run it over here to the 10, and I know that that's 8 inches from 2 to 10, whereas it's actually 16 inches right now. I can shift select the picture behind it and run auto size in MemorialDESIGNER and just type in 8 inches, and I want to straighten that along that line, so that will resize that photo for me to life size. I can do the same thing here with my sticky note. I know that this is a 3-inch sticky note, so I can come in here and click from here to here, shift select it, and say 3 inches and hit apply. So either way, whichever way you do it, sticky notes are easy. The rulers I think are probably a little bit more accurate, but either way, it gives you the photo in the correct size. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one and just work off of this one here. One thing is, if your ruler is not completely straight, it still might be skewed a little bit. Part of auto size rotates that for you, but if it's still skewed a little bit, I can go ahead and click along something that I know would be straight, like from here to there, and run auto size again, but this time I'll just do 0. So it's not going to resize it, it's just going to straighten it out. So I'm going to straighten along the horizontal axis. I hit apply, and you can see how that rotated it just a little bit. One of the things that I normally do too is apply a transparency to this so that it's a little bit transparent, and I'll just click on uniform transparency. 50% I find works out rather well, so I'll do that. And if I bring down a guideline, you can see that this is straight, but my ruler itself wasn't exactly straight, so that's why I went ahead and straightened it out. So the more exact you are when you lay your stuff out to begin with, the better off you'll be. But anyway, so now that I've got that done, all I have to do is come in here and start laying out the text. This particular stone I didn't do, so I may not have that exact font, but I'll just go ahead and go with a condensed SKS, and 1 inch looks to be too big, so let's type in March. I can also change, I usually do centered alignment for laying things out, but if I'm doing a rubbing, I can change that to left alignment, and that way I can line it up here along this edge. And then just start typing it in. So 17th, 2007. Alright, so I've got that lined up. Now I can change my kerning with my shape tool, and then come down here and click on this, and that will adjust my kerning. I can adjust it just by sliding it. That adjusts between every character, or if I want to, I can adjust between words by holding down Shift when I do that. So I can go ahead and do that. And since I'm using a different program and a different font, the kerning is not going to be exact. I do have it starting and ending in the right spot, but the kerning is not totally exact. I can go ahead and edit these individually if I wanted to bring certain ones over. That way I can get it closer to the original. Alright, so from there, what I'll do is I will drag that over to the right, holding down Control so that it stays in line. I'm right-clicking with my mouse and then letting go. That way it makes a copy of that. And then I can just type in the new date of death, June 14th, 2017. I can also, if I want to, bring over guidelines, so I can make sure that things line up a little bit better. So then I'll just take this and move it over just a little bit so that it's centered more in between those two guidelines, or underneath the September date there. So we've got that completed. Once we've got that drawn up, there's a couple different things that I would do. One is, maybe since I've got this one lined up pretty well to the original, I can just take both of those and plot them together. Oops, I'll make a copy, sorry. Okay, so I could plot both of them together. That way all I have to do is line this up with the original, and this one would line up right in line on the same piece of stencil. The other option is I could retype that September date and then line it up that way. Or one last thing is in Memorial Designer I can run a tool for creating a border around my inscription. That way it lines up, gives me lines here for the baseline as well as center marks, and then gives me a box around it as well. So this will cut that out easily on the plotter, so that all I have to do is line that up. And then of course I would just use my tape around all of that to mask that off. But as far as stencil goes, this is all that would get cut. So here's a quick and easy way to do date of death inscriptions with digital rubbings. Of course, using a photo I think is even better. If I were to want to maybe redraw this or anything that I wanted to redraw, I think it's much better to use a photo than it is to use a rubbing, especially when it comes to stuff like this, where you have shape carved pieces. A lot of times rubbings don't work very well with shape carvings. So I much prefer to use a digital photo that has something life-size in it that I can then resize my image to match that life-size thing, which is why I'm using the ruler.